Hey troops, here we go again. I am going to do another commentary. It's a YouTube short by a couple of guys who call them, what do they call themselves? Cross me. And they seem pleasant enough. I really should take the time to watch a few more of their videos. They seem like they're energetic and fun just from this one, but maybe I'll go back and do that after this. But let's see the description. It says, two brothers, both extremely humble, who love Jesus and want to share who he is, who Jesus is. I think that's awesome. I want to do that too. So I think we're on the same page here. I think those guys they're not going to like me when I'm done. Or maybe they will, but I think I'm going to like them. You know what? Before I watch the video, let me kind of set it up. They make 2 points in this video. The first one is about Daniel being vegan. Not quite. I'll get there. The second part is about Jesus eating the Passover. And I think Jesus eating the Passover was the main focus of this video. But I wanted to use this opportunity to use the first part, which is the thing about Daniel, because I don't think it's a good story to use to advocate for veganism. Because I don't think Daniel was vegan. I don't think he was promoting vegan. I think Daniel was promoting not eating an unkosher meal. Let me explain you before we watch the video clip. No, let me just play the video clip first. Where is that? Let's click over to here. Make it bigger. Yeah, there we go.
Well, we have to be vegetarians. It says here in Daniel. Spit that out of your mouth.
All right. See, yeah, it just, I don't know, just their attitude just seems like something I go, oh, that's fun. So he's saying Daniel's telling them they have to be vegetarian. Daniel is taken captive by Babylon. Okay, Daniel's all happy, doing what he's doing, serving God, eating kosher food. The Babylonian Empire comes, takes him captive, him and 3 of his buddies, and try to train him to become a good Babylonian. Now, the Babylonians said, let's find the strongest, the youngest, the good-looking ones, bring them up in Babylon, make them become, heroes of the Babylonian gods and faith and things like that later on in their lives, because you can train young kids better, buddies. But Daniel, being a true server, lover of God, is like, no, I'm not going to eat that food that the Babylonians have. It'll defile me. What food are we talking about? Well, we are talking specifically about flesh foods, not only, but flesh foods, because they're saying, let's give Daniel and his 3 buddies the king's portions, the king's meat, the king's food, because we want them to have the best of the best so they can grow up to become the best of the best. Daniel's like, I can't eat that. That's unclean. And they're like, no, you have to. And Daniel's like, wait, let's cut a deal here. Allow me and my buddies not to eat any of that. Just give us vegetables. Just give us water. Just give us veggies and things like that. And in 10 days, test us. Yeah. See how we're doing. If we can be stronger on just the vegetables or the clean foods is really what's going on here, then you'll let us continue on like this, and we don't have to eat the king's portion of food, which is the defiled foods, the unclean, the unkosher foods. Do you see how this is working? Now, the reason I say Daniel wasn't vegan is because this is Daniel chapter 1. In chapter 10, Daniel's talking about fasting, which is where you give up food for a certain amount of time for a religious reason many times. And Daniel says he gave up meat. Let me see if I can't pull up that verse specifically. Daniel chapter 10, I ate no bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth. See, that would imply he would normally eat flesh and drink wine. So he was temporarily abstaining from those things during the fast, which means obviously if he wasn't in a fast, he would be back to eating them. But a big change has happened at this point, years later. And Daniel's a high-ranking official. And if he wants kosher food, he can get kosher food. See, there's a big change in those 9 chapters. He went from a captive to a leader. See? He can get whatever food he wants. So he wouldn't defile himself. So knowing that about Daniel in chapter 10 is why I don't advise animal rights activists to use the Daniel diet or use the story that Daniel was a vegan. And if you haven't heard this, maybe I should go over that too. a lot of animal rights activists will say, oh, Daniel was vegan. And if you only read chapter 1, you might come away with that feeling, but that's really disingenuous. I mean, if I can get vegan meaning out of something in the Bible, I will do it. I will squeeze it and get every ounce of vegan out of it I possibly can. But if it's not there, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I know I can use it. The majority of the Christians I talk to, they're going to remember that story about Daniel, refusing to eat meat, but they're not going to know about chapter 10. And I do. And because I know that, I have the responsibility in front of God and is my God to be honest with the information I have. So I don't do it. It is effective though. And I know there's temptations for the activists to go out there and do it. I really hope you'll think about that. So what we can get out of that is that according to all the story, you can be strong, you can be healthy, and you can serve God eating a vegan diet though. Right? You shouldn't say vegan, a vegetable-based diet, a plant-based diet. So a lot of pastors are like, oh, you need to eat meat. And you can say, Daniel didn't feel that way. And Daniel's a hero of the faith. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff. So he's definitely somebody you can use. You can use that first chapter, but I would use it in a way of defending veganism, but not as a reason to go vegan. Does that help you? I hope. Okay, let me click over now. I need to get back to the video guy. Make him bigger. There he is, bigger. Because this is what they think their video was about. And I just ran off on that thing. It's amazing. I take a short and already I'm 10 minutes into like 10 seconds of their, no. I got a big mouth.
Oh, Jesus ate Passover lamb. Mark 14, 12-16. Check it out.
He did that like, hey, Mark chapter 14, check it out. I don't exactly know if that's the way he meant it, but it kind of came off like that to me, and I thought that was fun. So now these guys, when they made their video, he specifically ended it with those verses from Mark. And I wonder why. I don't know what he saw in them. So I thought I'd look them over because there's something in there that made him think that Jesus ate lamb. But whenever the Last Supper is described in Mark chapter 14, the only foods mentioned are bread and wine. No lamb was mentioned in the gospel account. I mean, it would be pretty strange if the gospel writers were just to completely leave out lamb when lamb is traditionally the centerpiece of every Passover meal. So I'm looking at these verses here and I just don't know why they would call that to our attention. Actually, none of the gospels say Jesus ate any lamb. And it may not have even been a Passover meal because it said this began on the day of an unleavened bread. Unleavened bread, that's a festival. I think it's a 7-day festival that starts on Passover or something like that, if I remember right. But in John's gospel, in chapter 19, Jesus was crucified at the same time that the Passover lambs were being slaughtered. So that means the Last Supper occurred before the Passover meal, which would suggest that Jesus ate a pre-Passover meal without lamb. There didn't have to be lamb at that meal at all, which could be why we're only hearing about bread and wine. So there is that. And all I know is Jesus also went on to say later on that I would have eaten this with you, but I'm choosing not to eat anything. So even if lamb was there, he's saying he chose not to eat any of it. I don't know why these guys would pick that one. I'm looking through the Gospel of Mark to find out why they think those specific verses were representation. Maybe I'll come back and revisit this Passover thing for you.